Today, we're jumping into one of the most incredible short stories ever told, the Book of Ruth. Now, this is a story that kicks off in what feels like the bleakest possible place. We're talking famine, death, loss, just total desolation. But it also poses this really powerful question. Can one small, quiet act of loyalty, in a moment of pure despair, actually change the entire course of history? Well, let's find out. So, right from the first sentence, we get this deeply ironic setup. A famine hits the town of Bethlehem. Now, you gotta understand, in Hebrew, Bethlehem literally means house of bread, or granary. So just imagine that. The one place that's supposed to be all about food has no food. It's empty. This little detail just perfectly sets the stage for the emptiness and desperation to come. And this whole situation forces this massive question that really drives the entire story. I mean, when you've lost everything, your home, your husband, your kids, basically your whole future, what does loyalty even mean anymore? Is sticking by someone a noble thing to do, or is it just foolish? That's the question our characters are about to face head on. Okay, so our story starts with a family making a really desperate move. There's a guy named Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their two sons. And because of the famine in Bethlehem, they're forced to pack up and leave, looking for safety in the neighboring land of Moab, which, by the way, was often a rival nation. But this search for a better life just goes horribly wrong. Over the next 10 years, Naomi's entire world completely falls apart. First, her husband, Elimelech, dies. Then her two sons, who had married local Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah, they die too. So by the end of this decade, Naomi is left a widow with no children in a foreign country. When she hears the famine back home is finally over, she decides to go back, but she's returning with absolutely nothing. So Naomi, feeling like she's cursed and has nothing left to offer, tells her two daughters-in-law, hey, go back to your own families. You'll have a future there. I mean, it's the logical, kindest thing she could say. But how they respond in this exact moment, well, that becomes the absolute turning point for the whole story. And here we see two totally different reactions to the exact same tragedy. Orpah makes the sensible choice. She cries, but she heads back to her people, back to a chance at a real future. And you can't blame her for that. It's completely understandable. But Ruth does something that makes no logical sense at all. She literally clings to Naomi, choosing to follow her into a future that promises nothing but being a poor foreigner in a strange land. And then she says this incredible vow. And look, this is so much more than just family loyalty. For Ruth, a Moabite woman, an outsider, to say that Naomi's people will be her people and Naomi's God will be her God, I mean, that is a massive declaration of faith. It's the emotional anchor of the entire book. She is tying her whole identity, her whole destiny to Naomi's. So the two women get to Bethlehem with, basically the clothes on their backs. To even survive, Ruth starts doing the work of the absolute poorest, gleaning. That means following the harvest workers and picking up any leftover grain they dropped. And it's right here, in this humble act of survival, that the story drops a very quiet but very powerful hint that there might be a bigger plan at work. This almost like it's no big deal, just a throwaway line. She happened to arrive at the field belonging to Boaz. That one little phrase, happened to, is actually everything. It sounds like pure luck, right? Just a random chance on a long, hard day. But the story is practically begging us to ask, happened? Really? Was it really just a coincidence? Or is this one of those moments where, from our point of view, it looks like chance, but from a much bigger divine perspective, it's actually preparation? It's this beautiful suggestion that a grander plan is unfolding, hidden in the most ordinary of moments. And this so-called coincidence leads her straight to Boaz. He's a wealthy, respected landowner who, what do you know, is actually a relative of Naomi's late husband. And he's heard all about Ruth's incredible loyalty to Naomi, and he's just blown away. He doesn't just see a poor foreigner, he sees her character, her heart. And he offers her protection, provides food for her, and gives her this blessing. It's the first real glimmer of grace in her life. All right, so the harvest season is ending, and Naomi, who is incredibly sharp, sees a window of opportunity. She gives Ruth a set of very bold and honestly very risky instructions. And this all leads to the most dramatic scene in the entire book, a late-night encounter at the threshing floor. Now, to really get what happens next, we have to understand this key cultural idea, the kinsman redeemer. In ancient Israel, this was a specific male relative who had a legal duty to rescue family members from crisis. This could mean buying back land they'd lost or, and this is the crucial part here, marrying a widow who had no sons to carry on the family name. It's not just a nice idea, it's a formal, legal role. So, following Naomi's plan, Ruth goes to Boaz at night and says this. Now, spreading a garment over someone was a symbolic act of protection, but in this specific context, it's a direct, formal proposal of marriage under the kinsman-redeemer law. It might sound a little romantic to us, but this was a courageous, high-stakes legal move. Boaz agrees, but then he reveals there's a catch. There's another relative who's actually closer in line than he is. And this is where the story shifts. It goes from a private, risky plea made at night to a public, legal resolution. The fate of Ruth and Naomi isn't going to be decided in the dark anymore, but out in the open, at the city gate, which was basically the ancient courtroom. So Boaz goes to this other relative and presents the case. At first, the guy is interested in buying the land, but then Boaz adds, "Oh, by the way, you also have to marry Ruth the Moabite." And the guy immediately backs out. He's worried it'll be a financial risk to his own inheritance. So Boaz steps up, and in front of everyone, he declares he will redeem the land and marry Ruth. It's an act of public honor and duty. And pretty soon, the ultimate redemption happens. Ruth, the foreign widow who came back with nothing, gives birth to a son, Obed. The whole town celebrates. And Naomi, who called herself bitter when she returned, is now full, holding her grandson. It feels like the story has come full circle. But trust me, the biggest reveal is yet to come. So Obed grows up, and he has a son of his own, named Jesse. And right here is where this small, intimate family story is about to connect with the epic story of an entire nation. Because Jesse, the son of Obed, who is the son of Ruth the foreigner, would have a son named David. Yes, that David, the shepherd boy who becomes Israel's greatest king. And there it is, the incredible twist ending. The camera suddenly zooms all the way out from this personal story of two widows, and we see its true, epic significance. Ruth, the outsider, the Moabite, is written directly into the royal line of Israel. Her one small act of loyalty didn't just save her and Naomi. It literally echoed through generations and helped shape history. So what does this all mean for us? Well, I think there are a few things. First, when your life feels totally desolate, that might just be the very place where a divine coincidence is about to happen. Second, when you feel small and your actions feel insignificant, know that true faithfulness never goes unnoticed. And finally, when you take that brave step into the unknown, you might just be walking into a much, much bigger story than you could ever have imagined for yourself. And so, the story leaves us with this question to chew on. It's just a powerful reminder that history isn't always turned by loud battles or grand decrees, but sometimes by the quiet, faithful choices we make when things are tough. It makes you wonder, right? How might the small acts of loyalty and faithfulness in your own life be weaving you into a story that's far greater than you can see right now? Thanks for joining me.